a Good Friday to you. It seems strange, my friends. Second Good Friday apart. And Good Friday is the one day of the year in which it's most reasonable to be sad. Good Friday traditionally has been the day of the year where we remember Jesus together in his death. And we try not to skip too quickly forward to the resurrection. There are a number of reasons we do this, first of which being that if we skip so quickly to the good news, sometimes we can forget why it was that we needed that good news in the first place. As I've reflected myself over the last few days, I was looking through my files and I found this thing that I wrote, and I dated it March 26th of 2020. It was last year when the coronavirus had first swept through our community and we had to shut down for the first time. And I was feeling really down and really depressed about that. I wanted to share this with you because I know for many, the idea of not being gathered together for Good Friday and for Easter may seem very hard. But I want to share this with you first. These are my words to the Lord. It was kind of like a prayer. It said, Lord, I look in the halls of your houses and they are empty. I listen for the voices of the children gathered together and laughing in play. But they are silent. I look for the faces of your aged saints gathered together to talk. But they are not here. I walk alongside the rows of seats. I don't pray over them to bless them anymore, because no one will be in them. The instruments have went quiet in your house. The old pulpit is aloof and quiet. The fellowship table has went silent. The bread of your table goes unbroken, and the blood of your passion goes unpoured. Your table is unattended. Your altar is unoccupied. They all say it will be better. They all say the church is where we are. But I miss your table. I hate that no one is before your altar. It's not better. I miss your presence when your children are gathered together. I don't want to preach into a glass eye. I don't want to pour your treasures into a foam-covered ear attached to a wire, attached to a transmitter, attached to a receiver, attached to a wire, attached to a board, attached to an endless mess of wires and transmitters and boards. I don't want to contribute to the noise out there. I miss the ephemeral nature of the preached word to the people. I don't want to be a content creator. Lord, restore what you have broken. Gather those whom you have scattered. Breathe life into your church. Don't leave us desolate. I wrote those words just over a year ago today, and I gotta say, I still feel them now. We live in a world and a day in which we're encouraged to live always for our happiness. We've been saying it a number of times in sermons and in messages that God is much more interested in our holiness than he is in our happiness. My friends, these things that God brings into our lives, these challenges, these illnesses, these trials and tribulations, they can serve as one of two things. They can drive us away from God the Father, or they can drive us toward Him. When we read the passage today from the book of Matthew, we're going to go slow through the whole story of Jesus' betrayal and death. And I want you to notice that as Jesus undergoes these trials, to whom does he turn his attention? I want you to notice that. Up here I have 7 candles. There are 7 points throughout the passage that I'll stop and extinguish one of the candles. The reason I'm going to do that is because this is tracking along with the story of Jesus' day and night getting darker and darker and darker. And last year, I did something a little different. Last year, I extinguished all the candles, and we listened for the voice of the Lord in silent prayer for a while afterwards. And then we were done. But my friends, this year, because of how dark things are in our world right now, and maybe even within our church family, within the number of households that are suffering and are ill, and we have some folks who are hospitalized, I wonder if that might be a darkness just too great for us to bear. So I'm going to extinguish all of the candles. We'll have a song of music and worship that our worship director, Lisa Kemp, has put together for us. But before I leave, I'm going to light one candle. Normally I don't do this, you guys. I'm only doing this because I love you. Need a little bit of encouragement, so we'll light one candle to remind us that Easter is coming. Easter is coming. Everything that Jesus suffered on your behalf and on my behalf, we're going to go through it together. But we are not without hope. We are not without hope. God our Father loves you so desperately that he sent his son Jesus to die for you. He said that whoever puts their trust in his son Jesus will not perish. That means they won't die, but they'll have everlasting life. Okay. Let's get to the passage together. We're in the book of Matthew, beginning in chapter 26, beginning on verse 17. On the first day of the feast of unleavened bread, the disciples came to Jesus and asked, "Where do you want us to make preparations for you to eat the Passover?" He replied, "Go into the city to a certain man and tell him, 'The teacher says, my appointed time is near. I'm going to celebrate the Passover with my disciples at your house.'" So the disciples did as Jesus had directed them and prepared the Passover. When evening came, Jesus was reclining at the table with the 12. And while they were eating, he said, "I tell you the truth, one of you will betray me." They were very sad and began to say to him one after the other, "Surely not I, Lord." Jesus replied, "The one who has dipped his hand into the bowl with me will betray me. The Son of Man will go just as it was written about him. But woe to the man who betrays the Son of Man. It would be better for him if he had not been born." Then Judas, the one who would betray him, said, "Surely not I, Rabbi." Jesus answered, "Yes, it is you." While they were eating, Jesus took bread, gave thanks and broke it, and gave it to his disciples, saying, "Take and eat. This is my body." Then he took the cup, gave thanks, and offered it to them, saying, Drink from it, all of you. This is my blood of the covenant, which is poured out for many for the forgiveness of sins. I tell you, I will not drink of this fruit of the vine from now on until that day when I drink it anew with you in my Father's kingdom." When they had sung a hymn, they went out to the Mount of Olives. Then Jesus told them, "This very night you will all fall away on account of me, for it is written, 'I will strike the shepherd, and the sheep of the flock will be scattered.' But after I have risen, I will go ahead of you into Galilee." Peter replied, "Even if all fall away on account of you, I never will." "I tell you the truth," Jesus answered. "This very night, before the rooster crows, you will disown me 3 times. But Peter declared, "Even if I have to die with you, I will never disown you." And all the other disciples said the same. Then Jesus went out with his disciples to a place called Gethsemane, and he said to them, "Sit here while I go over there and pray." He took Peter and the 2 sons of Zebedee along with him, and he began to be sorrowful and troubled. And he said to them, "My soul is overwhelmed with sorrow to the point of death. Stay here and keep watch with me." Going a little further, he fell with his face to the ground and prayed, "My Father, if it is possible, may this cup be taken from me. Yet not as I will, but as you will." Then he returned to his disciples and found them sleeping. "Could you men not keep watch with me for 1 hour?" he asked Peter. "Watch and pray so that you will not fall into temptation. The spirit is willing, but the body is weak." He went away a second time and prayed, "My Father, if it is not possible for this cup to be taken away unless I drink it, may your will be done." When he came back, he again found them sleeping because their eyes were heavy. So he left them and went away once more and prayed the 3rd time, saying the same thing. Then he returned to the disciples and said to them, "Are you still sleeping and resting? Look, the hour is near, and the Son of Man is betrayed into the hands of sinners. Rise, let us go. Here comes my betrayer." While he was still speaking, Judas, one of the 12, arrived. With him was a large crowd armed with swords and clubs sent from the chief priests and the elders of the people. Now the betrayer had arranged a signal with them. "The one I kiss is the man. Arrest him." Going at once to Jesus, Judas said, "Greetings, Rabbi," and kissed him. Jesus replied, "Friend, do what you came for." Then the man stepped forward, seized Jesus, and arrested him. With that, one of Jesus' companions reached for his sword, drew it out, and struck the servant of the high priest, cutting off his ear. "Put your sword back in its place," Jesus said to him, "for all who draw the sword will die by the sword. Do you think I cannot call on my Father, and he will at once put at my disposal more than 12 legions of angels? But how then would the scriptures be fulfilled that say it must happen in this way?" At that time, Jesus said to the crowd, "Am I leading a rebellion that you have come out with swords and clubs to capture me? Every day I sat in the temple courts teaching, and you did not arrest me. But this has all taken place that the writings of the prophets might be fulfilled." Then all the disciples deserted him and fled. Those who had arrested Jesus took him to Caiaphas, the high priest, where the teachers of the law and the elders had assembled. But Peter followed him at a distance, right up to the courtyard of the high priest. He entered and sat down with the guards to see the outcome. The chief priests and the whole Sanhedrin were looking for false evidence against Jesus so that they could put him to death, but they did not find any, though many false witnesses came forward. Finally, 2 came forward and declared, "This fellow said, 'I am able to destroy the temple of God and rebuild it in 3 days.'" Then the high priest stood up and said to Jesus, Are you not going to answer? What is this testimony that these men are bringing against you?" But Jesus remained silent. The high priest said to him, "I charge you under oath by the living God, tell us if you are the Christ, the Son of God." "Yes, it is as you say," Jesus replied. "But I say to all of you, in the future you will see the Son of Man sitting at the right hand of the Mighty One and coming on the clouds of heaven." Then the high priest tore his clothes and said, "He has spoken blasphemy. Why do we need any more witnesses? Look, now you have heard the blasphemy. What do you think?" "He is worthy of death," they answered. Then they spit in his face and struck him with their fists. Others slapped him and said, "Prophesy to us, Christ. Who hit you?" Now Peter was sitting out in the courtyard, and a servant girl came to him. "You also were with Jesus of Galilee," she said. But he denied it before them all. "I don't know what you're talking about," he said. Then he went out to the gateway, where another girl saw him and said to the people there, "This fellow was with Jesus of Nazareth." He denied it again with an oath. "I don't know the man." After a little while, those standing there went up to Peter and said, "Surely you are one of them, for your accent gives you away." Then he began to call down curses on himself, and he swore to them, "I don't know the man." Immediately a rooster crowed. Then Peter remembered the word Jesus had spoken, "Before the rooster crows, you will disown me 3 times." And he went outside and wept bitterly. Early in the morning, all the chief priests and the elders of the people came to the decision to put Jesus to death. They bound him, led him away, and handed him over to Pilate, the governor. When Judas, who had betrayed him, saw that Jesus was condemned, he was seized with remorse and returned the 30 silver coins to the chief priests and the elders. "I have sinned," he said, "for I have betrayed innocent blood." "What is that to us?" they replied. "That's your responsibility." So Judas threw the money into the temple and left. Then he went away and hanged himself. The chief priests picked up the coins and said, "It is against the law to put this into the treasury, since it is blood money." So they decided to use the money to buy the potter's field as a burial place for foreigners. That is why it has been called the Field of Blood to this day. Then what was spoken by Jeremiah the prophet was fulfilled. They took the 30 silver coins, the price set on him by the people of Israel, and they used them to buy the potter's field, as the Lord commanded me. Meanwhile, Jesus stood before the governor, and the governor asked him, "Are you the king of the Jews?" "Yes, it is as you say," Jesus replied. When he was accused by the chief priests and the elders, he gave no answer. Then Pilate asked him, "Don't you hear the testimony they are bringing against you?" But Jesus made no reply, not even to a single charge, to the great amazement of the governor. Now it was the governor's custom at the feast to release a prisoner chosen by the crowd. At that time, they had a notorious prisoner called Barabbas. So when the crowd had gathered, Pilate asked them, Which one do you want me to release to you? Barabbas or Jesus, who is called Christ?" For he knew it was out of envy that they had handed Jesus over to him. While Pilate was sitting on the judge's seat, his wife sent him this message: "Don't have anything to do with that innocent man, for I have suffered a great deal today in a dream because of him." But the chief priests and the elders persuaded the crowd to ask for Barabbas and to have Jesus executed. "Which of the two do you want me to release to you?" asked the governor. "Barabbas," they answered. "What shall I do then with Jesus, who is called Christ?" Pilate asked. They all answered, "Crucify him." "Why? What crime has he committed?" asked Pilate. But they shouted all the louder, "Crucify him!" When Pilate saw that he was getting nowhere, but that instead an uproar was starting, he took water and washed his hands in front of the crowd. "I am innocent of this man's blood," he said. "It is your responsibility." All the people answered, "Let his blood be on us and on our children." Then he released Barabbas to them, but he had Jesus flogged and handed him over to be crucified. Then the governor's soldiers took Jesus into the praetorium and gathered the whole company of soldiers around him. They stripped him and put a scarlet robe on him, and then twisted together a crown of thorns and set it on his head. They put a staff in his right hand and knelt in front of him and mocked him. "Hail, King of the Jews," they said. They spit on him and took the staff and struck him on the head again and again. After they had mocked him, they took off the robe and put his own clothes on him. Then they led him away to crucify him. As they were going out, they met a man from Cyrene named Simon, and they forced him to carry the cross. They came to a place called Golgotha, which means the place of the skull. There they offered Jesus wine to drink mixed with gall, but after tasting it, he refused to drink it. When they had crucified him, they divided up his clothes by casting lots. And sitting down, they kept watch over him there. Above his head they placed the written charge against him: "This is Jesus, the King of the Jews." 2 robbers were crucified with him, one on his right and one on his left. Those who passed by hurled insults at him, shaking their heads and saying, "You who are going to destroy the temple and build it in 3 days, save yourself. Come down from the cross if you are the Son of God." In the same way, the chief priests, the teachers of the law, and the elders mocked him. "He saved others," they said, "but he can't save himself. He's the King of Israel. Let him come down now from the cross, and we will believe in him. He trusts in God. Let God rescue him now if he wants him, for he said, 'I am the Son of God.'" In the same way, the robbers who were crucified with him also heaped insults on him. From the 6th hour until the 9th hour, darkness came over all the land. About the 9th hour, Jesus cried out in a loud voice, "Eli, Eli, lama sabachthani," which means, my God, why have you forsaken me?" When some of those standing there heard this, they said, "He's calling Elijah." Immediately, one of them ran and got a sponge. He filled it with wine vinegar, put it on a stick, and offered it to Jesus to drink. The rest said, "Now leave him alone. Let's see if Elijah comes to save him." And when Jesus had cried out again in a loud voice, he gave up his spirit. At that moment, the curtain of the temple was torn in two from top to bottom. The earth shook and the rocks split. The tombs broke open, and the bodies of many holy people who had died were raised to life. They came out of the tombs, and after Jesus' resurrection, they went into the holy city and appeared to many people. When the centurion and those with him who were guarding Jesus saw the earthquake and all that had happened, they were terrified and exclaimed, "Surely he was the Son of God." Many women were there watching from a distance. They had followed Jesus from Galilee to care for his needs. Among them were Mary Magdalene, Mary the mother of James, and Joseph the mother of Zebedee's sons. As evening approached, there came a rich man from Arimathea named Joseph, who had himself become a disciple of Jesus. Going to Pilate, he asked for Jesus' body, and Pilate ordered that it be given to him. Joseph took the body, wrapped it in a clean linen cloth, and placed it in his own new tomb that he had cut out of the rock. He rolled a big stone in front of the entrance to the tomb and went away. Mary Magdalene and the other Mary were sitting there opposite the tomb. We'll now have the song that Lisa has prepared for us.
In that day they will fast. There is coming a day when the bridegroom is taken away. In that day they will mourn. In that day they will fast. And they will sing things as they are not okay. When someone is missing, someone is absent, and they will sing things as they are not okay. When someone is missing, someone is absent. There is coming a day when the bridegroom is taken away. In that day they will mourn. In that day they will fast. There is coming a day when the bridegroom is taken away. In that day they will mourn. In that day they will fast. Things are not okay right now. 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 There is coming a day when the bridegroom is taken away. In that day they will mourn, and in that day they will fast. There is coming a day when the bridegroom is taken away. In that day they will mourn. In that day they will fast. Things are not okay right now. Things are not okay right now. Things are not okay right now. Things
My
are
friends,
not okay, and they won't be
Jesus
till you
truly has
come back.
for you, for the whole world.
No, they won't be till you
On this Good Friday,
come
we remember
back.
his death.
And they won't be till you come back. And they won't be till you come back. Things are not okay right now. Things are not okay right now. Things are not okay right now. Things are not okay.
My friends, Jesus truly has died for me, for you, for the whole world. On this Good Friday, we remember his death together. He was betrayed by his friends. He was let down by those who were close to him. He was falsely convicted on false charges. He was beaten. He was crucified. He died and was put in a tomb. All of these happened for my sins and for your sins. And Jesus paid that cost lovingly. And now together, we look forward to Easter, the day where we remember the resurrection of our Savior together. So the rest of this evening, maybe use this time to reflect on the mingling of the sadness of Jesus, our friend and King, dying, and mingle that sadness with the joy of knowing that in just a couple short days, he will be resurrected again. My friends, I love you and just want to pray a parting blessing over you. God, may your people who are gathered together in rooms and living rooms and bedrooms around this area, may their hearts be able to mingle this sadness with joy together. We are so grateful to you for sending your son Jesus. For as dark and as hard as things are right now, we at least have hope. We at least have the hope of the gospel. Thank you that at least we have that. May all of your people go from this place in peace and in warmth and in joy. I bless you, my friends, in the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Go in peace.